Good evening. Welcome to the combined meeting, February 1st, 5 p.m. Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Here.
Ms. Fabry.
Here.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Sobrano.
Present.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Mrs. Cospati.
Here.
Ms. Spinelli.
Here. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following: announcing time, place, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, S&J Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, and the Clerk of the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. At this time, will the DePalato students please come forward for the flag salute? Thank you very much. Just hang tight. We're going to get a couple of photos for you, and Ms. Cospati is going to hand you out some certificates for this evening. Great job. Let's have a round of applause for our DePalato flag saluters. Scott, at this time, do we have a resolution for executive session?
No, we don't.
Mr. Yano, moving on to special presentations.
Yes, we have a few special presentations tonight. To start, I would like to invite Mr. Mike Garcia of Ford Scott Associates, LLC, to present the draft 2021-2022 audit report.
Thank you very much. Scott did hand out some selected schedules from the draft audit report that I'm going to discuss with you. Just as a quick recap, we are still in draft form because we've been awaiting information from the state that needs to be included in your final report. The state just released the information last Friday, so it'll take us a couple of weeks to put the entire document together and give you the entire report, and you will be able to formally accept the report at your next meeting. But as far as the things that we're going to discuss tonight, the fact that we're in draft, none of these numbers will change from what you're going to see when you get the final report. Additionally, as you're probably all curious, when we do the audit, we're also required to report findings and recommendations when we find areas of errors or exceptions. Happy to announce that there will be no findings or recommendations in the audit. It's a clean audit. But we will go through briefly some of the numbers here that I want to draw your attention to. And the first page that I have for you is the It's the revenue and expense statement for the food service fund, and it's the very first page on the handout. And I just want to draw your attention to the bottom line. I've highlighted it in green, $2,235,930.22. That is the surplus in the food service account. It's historically high. At the beginning of the year, you actually had a deficit of $137,000. So you were able to make a significant profit in the food service fund in the 21-22 school year. But that, we don't expect that to continue to reoccur. That's because of increased federal subsidies for free and reduced lunch, and also the fact that all student lunches were subsidized at the free rate for the 21-22 school year. So it's good to see that we've got a surplus, but we don't anticipate that to continue. Also, when it comes to a surplus in your food service account, the federal government puts a restriction on how much you can retain in there. So actually, you're going to need to reduce that surplus by about $500,000 in the next year to be in compliance. So what that would mean is you're going to need to invest in either equipment for your cafeterias or other supplies and items that you might need and can be used in the food service fund, because they don't want school districts accumulating large surpluses in that fund. But once again, we do know that that big surplus in the 21-22 year was because of increased federal subsidies that won't continue to grow at that rate. Okay, so that's the food service fund. The next part of the document here, and I'm not going to go through every page, but it's the document that we discuss every year. It's the C1, which is the revenue and expenses for the general fund, your main operating fund, the most important fund to your budget. The first page lists all of the revenues, and then it continues on with all of the expenditures. And without going through every line, I really do want to draw your attention to the bottom line on the very last page. And once again, on this last page, I've also highlighted in green the important numbers, the numbers that I think are most important for the board and the public to be aware of. You'll see the first number that I've highlighted is the fund balance at June 30th in the amount of $39,025,502.65. That's the total surplus funds that the district has on hand. But it's very important to realize most of that is not available. Most of that has already been pledged and is being utilized. And the box that I've got in green there for will show you where that $39 million is going. First, the district has increased the maintenance reserve to $2.8 million, the $2,819,000. You started the year with only about $700 in your maintenance reserve. Your 21-22 school budget included an increase in that account. So this $2.8 million can only be used for repairs and maintenance of your facilities. So you've got a strong maintenance reserve balance. That's good to see. Right below that, we have the reserve for excess surplus in the amount of $9,821,258.55. The state currently imposes a cap on surplus for school districts. The current cap is 4% of your expenditures. Whenever you have dollars in excess of that 4% number, it gets set aside in this reserve account and must be used, the excess surplus reserve, that is, and it must be used to fund your next budget. So in this case, the $9.8 million must be used to fund the 23-24 school year budget. Right below that, you will see an additional account that is excess surplus that's designated for subsequent years' expenditures in the amount of $14,761,367.18. That's the amount that you were above the 4% number at June 30th of 21. That, so 2 years ago. That money was still in your bank account at June 30th of 22 and is now being used to fund the 22-23 school year budget, so the year that we're currently in here, that $14.7 million. The important thing to recognize between these two numbers is last year we had $14.7 to apply to the next budget. This year, we only have 9.8. So we're almost $5 million behind in that excess surplus account. So that does make the next budget difficult, that you have less excess surplus funds available to balance that next budget, along with whatever increases that you're going to have in spending due to contractual agreements and whatnot. So we are behind in that excess surplus account. Right below that, we have the reserve for unemployment, $626,466. As its name would suggest, it can only be used to pay unemployment claims. We have a reserve for encumbrances in the amount of $2,626,321.23. These funds are set aside at June 30th to pay bills that were open related to the 21-22 school year. It's normal operating procedure that the vendors don't get all of their paperwork in to have a payment made by June 30th, so that those funds are set aside when your business office receives the invoices and all of the documents, and then they submit those bills for approval by the board. So as we sit here now, those funds have also been expended. That leaves us with our unassigned fund balance in the amount of $8,370,448. So that is truly, of the $39 million that we started with, that 8.3 is the only free and available balance. That is 4% of your operating budget with some additions that are allowed to be adjusted onto it. It's important, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but that is 4% of your budget spending. Next year, we go back down to 2%. Due to COVID, the state allowed school districts to go up to 4% in that unassigned number due to the emergency. But now that that emergency is over, we are scheduled to go back, and unless there's some last-minute legislation, it's scheduled to go back to 2% that you can keep in your unassigned account for next year, being at June 30th of 23, this year actually. So you will see that that number will have to be reduced basically in half next year when we're sitting here discussing this. Once again, those are the items that I felt were most important to bring to the attention of the board and to the public. You know, it is a summary, and if there are any other comments or questions you have for me, anything I didn't mention that you would like to discuss, of course, you know, I'm here for any comments or questions you may have.
Comments or questions? Seeing none.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all, and have a good night.
Now we have a special celebration. I would like to invite Mrs. Kate Cronk, VHS head field hockey coach, and Miss Deborah O'Kane, middle school field hockey coach. Tonight we're honoring our girls' middle school field hockey team for an undefeated season.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So as you know, my name is Kate Cronk. I am the head field hockey coach at Vineland High School. We are grateful that you are allowing us the time here to honor our middle school program. We're very proud of our middle school program. It's been a lot of work, a bunch of years coming, and we couldn't do it without the support of the board and without the support of really a lot of people in the district. All three middle schools come together and play as one, which is unique in the fact that we have those three middle schools and most other districts don't. Most other districts, if they have a team, it's separated by school. So I feel like Vineland's already unique, and just in this program, it's a very unique factor. The other unique thing is our program, we view it, Coach O'Kane and I, and Coach Smith, my assistant, view it as a family. Our middle school team practices alongside our high school team. Once they get to the high school, they do a lot of activities together. So it is one big family, and we're really proud to be able to honor them tonight for what our middle schoolers have been able to accomplish this season. So without further ado, Coach O'Kane.
And just to reiterate Coach Cronk, I just want to thank the board again for having us and honoring our season. Like Coach Cronk said as well, our program is truly a family. We really grow together. We have our ups and downs, all the things of family. It is unique and beautiful that we get to work so closely with the high school team and collaborate. It's a wonderful opportunity to have that cohesive unit. And I really could have never imagined the growth of our middle school program. Last season, I had 9 approved physicals in the beginning of the year. And then we grew to 16 by the end of the season. But this season, I had well over 20 for our first game, and we ended with 32 girls on our team, which is amazing. And I attribute a lot of that to busing. I think a lot of our girls were able to join our program with having busing. I think that's why we saw such an astronomical growth in our program. They had a phenomenal undefeated season with a record of 10 wins and no losses. We scored a total of 50 goals throughout the season while only allowing 4 goals against. 6 out of 10 of the games were shutouts with no goals against us. 50 goals were scored by 7 different girls and 42 assists by 9 different girls. So it was a very impressive season. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our young ladies here, our 6th grade group, very passionate group, and I'm very excited to see their growth. We have Ali Garcia, Mila Hennis, Olivia Bernini, Alana Torres, Zoe Zavis, Aubrey Rivera, Alasia Cosby, and Hayden Grablow. Our 7th grade group, I'm eager to see the roles that they step into as they move on to 8th grade. Our 7th grade group is Lauren Hullahan, Kai Kleinbord, Chloe Morvay, Samaya Francis, Abigail Flitcraft, Isabella Lopez, Anya Austin, Samantha Torres, Gabriella Roldan, Olivia Vertoli, Unique Dickerson, Lucy Sacchetti, and Esmeralda Perez Alacron. And then our 8th grade group, this was a fantastic group of leaders. I couldn't ask for a better group of leaders in so many different ways. Their dedication to this sport is unmatched, and I can't wait to continue to see all their accomplishments in high school. So our 8th grade group is Nyla Pierce, Malia Pierce, Kira Herring, Sydney Kronk, Adriana Parent, Aubrey Parent, Ryan Grover, Gia DeFeo, Exodus Hollander, Baron Aiden, and Maylia Cosby. At this point, our captains would like to share just a few words.
We would like to speak on behalf of our field hockey program.
We want to express our gratitude for offering this opportunity to participate in a sport we love.
Thank you, Mr. Yano and the board for sponsoring our middle school field hockey team.
Hello, my name is Aubrey Parent, and I have the honor of being the team's captain. Field hockey is a unique sport. It has whistles constantly, penalties that no one really understands. Everyone is forced to be right-handed, and people look at it and think, oh, it can't be that hard. But the truth is, it is a very hard sport. It requires strength, speed, endurance, and a group of people that can work together. Oh, and it helps to have a great goalie. Let's give a round of applause to my sister Gianna, who allowed 3 goals in 10 games. My 7th grade season, we played shorthanded because we didn't have enough players to field a full team. This year, we had enough girls to have a varsity team and a full JV team. We are growing the game, but we are doing more than that. We are changing the culture of the sport in 2 big ways. 1, we are proud to be a racially diverse group, and 2, we win. And we will continue to win. This group of girls are all winners, and we expect next year's team to win. And us 8th graders are expected to continue to win at the high school level. In closing, I'd like to thank the board for having us here today and giving us recognition to the sport that is often forgotten. And to my teammates, it was an honor to share the field with you. Stay strong, stay focused, and remember, this is only the beginning.
Job well done, ladies. Miss Fabry is down there with some certificates that she's going to hand to your coaches to hand out, and we're going to get a couple photos. Let's give another round of applause.
I would also like to point out that with our Board of Education last year supporting middle school sports, this is what you see. It's amazing. We had an opportunity last year to go, actually this year, to go see one of the games against Bridgeton, and the girls absolutely annihilated Bridgeton. I felt kind of bad for their team, but it was great. It was a great game. We dominated. I know. Sorry, Mr. Silva, but these are our girls. So thank you, coaches. Thank you for all the work that you've done. I love the statement from the captains about, you know, our team. This team represents everything that Vineland has to offer. And you need to thank our Board of Education for seeing the importance of sports for our middle school students and how really it's an exceptional experience for our girls. So thank you, Coach. Thank you, Donnie Robbins, as well, for organizing, and thank you, Transportation, for getting the girls to their practices on time and to their games. Thank you very much.
So, girls, you wanna come
Ladies,
over here
yeah,
and
you
I'll
can
give
have a
your
seat.
certificates.
Or you can stay there all night. That's great. I love the shirts, too. Great shirts, 10-0. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Melissa Painter, Miss Alexis Ziegler, and Mrs. Marissa Tormina, who will share a presentation on the preschool universe. They're going to be using the projector, so we'll need to slide over. The floor is yours once we get situated.
Good evening, Mr. Yano, Mr. Mustarell, Mr. DeSantos, and members of the board. For those of you who I have not personally met, I'm Melissa Hannigan Painter, and I'm the principal of the Vineland Public Schools preschool program. I have with me this evening Assistant Principal Marisa Taramina and our Early Childhood Supervisor Alexis Ziegler. We're very excited to have the opportunity tonight to talk about our preschool program. We're extremely proud of Vineland's preschool history. We have had the distinct pleasure of educating the youngest students in Vineland for over 20 years in our preschool program. We're a universal preschool program, which means we offer a full-day preschool education to every child in the city of Vineland who turns 3 on or before October 1st. Our program is what's called a shared delivery system. We embrace our contracts with 7 district providers and 2 Head Start centers, and our program is considered a model program by the state of New Jersey. We're always looking for ways to grow our program and for opportunities to better ourselves. This year, we've made some changes to our registration process. The reason we've made those changes are to ensure diversity in our program, provide for smooth transitions between children and families, between preschool, in-district and all of our provider centers and all of our elementary schools, and to streamline our transportation process.
So as Melissa mentioned, the first reason we made these changes was to ensure diversity. So up here you can see part of our mission statement. We actually have a really lengthy mission statement, which I found. But the first paragraph up there talks a little bit about building preparing children for their future success. The second part you see at the bottom really focuses in on diversity. So what we recognize in preschool is the strength in our diversity as a program and how important it is to celebrate diversity and embrace all of the unique individuals we have in our program. So that's why we really believe that our school population should reflect the demographics that we see in the community. So, and here's a very nice, fun picture of some of our happy preschoolers enjoying their classroom, because preschool pictures make everybody happy, right? So we wanted to share just a quick breakdown of demographics. So what we see right now program-wide, and as Melissa mentioned, our preschool program does exist with 2 in-district locations and 7 providers and 2 Head Start centers. So this is across the entire program, about what, 1150 we're at right now of children. So we have about 59% of our population is Hispanic, 20% white, 13% Black or African American, 1% Asian, and we have 0% on our other couple, and about 7% on multiracial. So that's the breakdown of the entire program. So what I have for you next is a breakdown of Delago. So this is representative of our 2 in-district locations. So it's our Delago East and our Delago West buildings. So again, you see demographics here that are pretty close to what you see on the program-wide. So here's our program-wide slide again for comparison, and Delago, pretty similar. I would say it's a mirror. Then this is our demographic breakdown of what we see in our provider centers. So again, same colors. So, you know, that light blue is our Hispanic population, the orange is the white population, the gray is Black or African American. All the centers are obviously de-identified here. But the point is that we want to take the diversity that we see from our program here, mirrored at Delago, and make sure that all of our centers are representative of that same diverse population, because again, we know diversity is a strength, right? What better time than preschool to teach how amazing it is to embrace diversity, whether it's age, race, sex, gender, ability, right? We embrace all aspects of diversity in our program, and we want to see that reflected in all of our locations. Another aspect of diversity, as I just mentioned, is ability. So we are very proud to be an inclusive preschool program. We support all of our children with disabilities in our preschool program the best we can in the least restrictive environment. That being said, in our program, we have about 9% of our population as students with disabilities. Pretty low, actually, for preschool. In our Delago location, however, we are supporting 21% of our population in Delago, so that's about 336 kids right now, are students with disabilities. So then, when you look at our provider centers, we have about 96% of it being children who are general education children, and about 4% as students with disabilities. So again, what we are looking to do with making the changes to registration that we are is to ensure diversity. We want to spread the diverse abilities, strengths, unique characteristics that all of our children are bringing to preschool, and make sure that all of our locations have that same demographics represented. So we know that supporting our children with disabilities, we can do that with support from, you know, our staff, our teachers, our coaches, us as administrators, obviously, but when we take our students and we spread them across all of our locations, it's a little bit of that less is more, right? More support because there's less intense needs in the same place.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the next part of the program changes or the registration changes. And we talk about transitions, and we know transitions are difficult for children and for adults, but especially for our youngest learners. And so we can tell you, and you can ask kindergarten teachers too, in September it's rough. There are a lot of tears, there's a little bit of uncertainty in their faces, but as the weeks go on, they start to relax. We see less tears. We see them becoming more comfortable with their surroundings and their routines. And part of this is building relationships with the adults in the room, but also, more importantly, with their peers. And we find that so many friendships start in preschool, and we want to continue that by having children attend their home school. So I think it's very important to recognize that a lot of the connections that we make with our students also carry over into the families. All of our preschools have a lot of family events at night, and it gives the families an opportunity to meet one another and support each other throughout the process of the preschool, because it is very scary. I think it's a big adjustment for our parents as well. So we do really like to have different events so that the kids can spend time together outside of the school environment, and the families can also build relationships as well too. The other part of transitions that we do are kindergarten visits. For many years, Vineland Preschool has provided a field trip for our 4-year-old students. And what we do is we partner, all of the schools, including the provider centers, partner with their neighboring elementary school. And I chose this photo for a reason. A couple weeks ago, there were a lot of Petway Patriots here. They celebrated Pooh Day. And as I was looking through the pictures on the Vineland Public School website, I saw so many of our students from Delago East, which is located at the Johnstone building. In fact, 4 of those students were at Delago East last year. When we had our field trip to our kindergarten, they went to Petway. They go into the kindergarten classrooms. The teachers have activities prepared for them. They also get to visit the cafeteria, which is really important and can be overwhelming for a kindergarten student, as well as the library. Our preschool students eat lunch in the classrooms, so being in a cafeteria is a big adjustment for them. These students had the opportunity to visit the actual school that they were going to be going to when they transitioned over to kindergarten. So I think it's great. And we partner, for instance, Tiny Tots. They usually go to Menny's. I know it's Appolito. You get students from Little Lamb. So again, that whole community and that whole neighborhood mentality and energy is really present when you're using the homeschool that we are doing for the registration process. And we know when we see a familiar face in the crowd, we get a little less anxious. We get a little bit more confident. And we know that when our children are happy, they're motivated. And when they're motivated, they want to learn. And so we think that's all part of the transition that's so important for our preschool students. And we also want to be consistent with K through 12. You know, of course, there are changes that may occur where students may not attend their homeschool, but for the most part, homeschool is what is a consistency in K through 12. We also want to talk about transportation. We were just talking about routines and transitions. We know that getting on the bus every morning, children get used to that routine. Children love taking the school bus. And so initially it might be a little bit intimidating for them, but they really do love it. And so when you get on that school bus, it just becomes part of their school day routine. With not attending a homeschool, we do have some traffic concerns that occur within the city. We are a very large district. Some parents choose to drive their children to school, and that's okay too. But we have noticed that with long car lines come traffic concerns, and we have met with some of our centers to help alleviate that process. But with the homeschool and transportation, we would decrease the number of car riders and traffic in the area. We also want to ensure the shortest travel times when students are on the bus. We all know Vineland is large. I think it's over 65 square miles. That's a lot for the transportation department to kind of like navigate, and I know they put everything into a system, but we want our students to get on the bus and get home as soon as possible. And that being said, homeschool zones, we know they're very fluid. It's based on the amount of students that are registered in the area, and that's how the catchment zones change a little bit. If someone is curious, you can go on your Vineland website. You will see the boundary maps for the preschools and the elementary schools. Now, they are updated as per the transportation department. We have a few additional preschool program information that we want to address. We do get a lot of inquiries about before and after care. Before and after care is located at 8 of our 11 locations. That's in-house. There are other centers that are located throughout the city that also provide before and after care, and you would have to, parents would apply for a caretaker request. But But we also want to say that all of those centers are listed on the Vineland.org website. If you go into the parent tab, you'll see all the centers listed. But 8 of our 11 preschool locations do have before and after care. And keeping in mind that the programs for that before and after care are needs driven. So if they see or if they are, made aware of parents who need time adjustments, those centers would adapt to what the parents' needs are. And that's a really important point because I know sometimes parents are looking for a specific time. One center might need, 10 parents who come at 5 o'clock. Another center, they don't have anybody till after 4:30. So we want to make sure that, you bring up your concerns to those centers. We also are part of the Rucker subsidy, and this is to help our families have a discounted rate for before and after care. Homeschool, if your homeschool does not offer before and after care, you would, of course, be led to the closest preschool that would be next to your homeschool. And that's it. Thank you.
Uh-oh, we lost our, nope. Wait a minute, here we go. Thought we lost our last slide. Okay, so preschool registration will open on March 1st of 2023. And it is an online process. So, current preschool students who are 3 years old and in their pre-K 3 year will transition to their pre-K 4 year next year, and they will not change schools. So if you are currently a pre-K 3 student, you will stay in the same school for your pre-K 4 year as well. There will be lots of open house events to help families with registration processes. Sometimes the online process can be confusing for families. It can also cause a hardship if families don't have data plans and only have a cell phone. Uploading the documents can be challenging. So our preschool team is ready. From play dates at the park, to popsicles on the playground, to little folks festivals, to books and bubble events, to National Night Out, we're there. Ready to register children for preschool and to help in any way we can. Parents who need to request a different preschool because they have special circumstances can find those forms on the district's website, and those forms are considered by the Assistant Superintendent's office on a case-by-case basis. Preschool is the first introduction to school that so many of our children have. We're so grateful that in Vineland we can offer that to every single child. The relationships that children start in preschool and their families build in preschool at all of our family events carries them on through the rest of their school time. Those preschool parents who are hanging out together at Books and Bubbles, they're the same parents that are going to go to elementary school and become the PTA and PTO parents. We're grateful for the opportunity tonight to speak. Here's our contact information. We love to show off our program and our locations, and we welcome anyone to contact us to set up a tour or to answer any questions. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
I want to thank the preschool team. That was an excellent presentation, super informative. I appreciate the time and effort put into, explaining the process and the safeguards that we put into place to support our families. And I also love the connections you made about working with our preschool providers that work directly into our elementary schools. Those connections are made when they're 3 years old, and we'll take them through for the rest of their school career. So thank you again for the presentation. Were there any questions regarding the presentation?
Being preschool liaison, I deal with them a lot, and I have to say kudos to you and your team and to all the preschool providers, because you are available and you do take everybody's best interest at heart. So thank you for what you guys do. I know it's a difficult job, but we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam
Thank
President?
you, yes.
Just a comment. I was here on day one of the preschool program, and I was incredibly excited because all the research I had seen prior to that showed that a quality preschool program was keeping kids from falling behind going to school and never catching up. So what you're doing is very, very important, and you're doing a great job. Thank you, and thank you for a great program, too.
Okay, so we have one more presentation. Dr. Sneeden will give a semi-annual HIB report.
Good evening, board members and members of the community. Each year, we are tasked with providing data on our harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports, and of the cases that are reported, those that are founded and unfounded twice a year. So this is a report detailing the cases from September through December. You may notice a slight uptick in the harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases reported. There was a change in the law, and now all of them have to be investigated. They can't just deem them student conflict right at the outset. So we are seeing a bit of an uptick. I do want to take a moment as you look over the sheet that's provided to publicly thank all of our school-level anti-bullying specialists. These are counselors and social workers who are working diligently to provide these investigations, and they are rather labor-intensive. So their efforts are most appreciated and are doing things to keep kids feeling safe and comfortable in our schools. So I can't thank them enough for their efforts on behalf of our students. As you take a moment, I don't know if you had any questions, but that is your semi-annual report, and I'll be back in the summer with the final report for the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding the HIB? Seeing none.
At this time, we have, there was no questions regarding the presentation, right? So now we're going to go into B, the HIB report for the month of February. The item is on our agenda. All of our documentation is there for the public and our board to view. So the report is online and available for any questions or comments if there's any at this time.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Approval of minutes, January 4th, 2023, reorg meeting, January 11th, 2023, combined meeting, January 11th, 2023, executive session. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes to all, abstain on January 4th.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti?
Yes to January 4th and January 11th combined meetings. I have to abstain from January 11th executive session.
Thank you. Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to committee reports. Do I have any committee reports this evening? Mr. Rivera.
Good evening. The Facilities Committee met on January 26th at 4:30 p.m. via Google Meet. In attendance were Mr. Mosterell, Mr. Yano, Mrs. Codispoti, Mr. Sobrana, Mrs. Spinelli, and Mr. Farinaccio, and myself. There were several discussions regarding the ESSER and ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding projects that we currently have in different stages of development throughout the district. There was also an update on the Lissa's Law and the panic buttons that are being installed throughout the district. Also, there was an update on the district-wide camera project and the Rossi roof project. There's different projects throughout the district that are being completed as we speak. Some are finished, some are about to start. So there's a lot going on with facilities in the district. We also discussed the projections for the budget for next year for facilities. We also discussed the QSAC update and review, and there's going to be a reinspection planned for February by the county office. And we discussed several items within the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening? Ms. Acosta.
Good evening. The curriculum, instruction, and technology met on January 23rd. In attendance were Nathan Fry, Mr. Yano, Kim Kataspati, and myself. And Alex Silva. We discussed the RCSJ College Readiness Now grant. We discussed the elements of health care. We also discussed the March 10th, 2023 district in-service. We discussed the elementary math initial meeting. We discussed the elementary language arts update and discussed Project Lead the Way grant acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening? Seeing none. Public meeting report by board solicitor. Mr. Santo, do we have anything this evening?
None.
Moving on, public comment on agenda items. Please limit yourself to 3 minutes. We do have a timer up here at the end of the table. State your name. Any yellow sheets?
Amy Camp. She wishes to speak on principal appointment for Petway.
Good evening. Thank you for your attention this evening. My name is Amy Camp, and I wanted to speak in reference to an appointment you were considering making final this evening, and that would be for the Petway principal position. I listened to some great things tonight about a lot of things that are good in this district. Unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of the bad news and give you the bad report. We've had an ongoing issue in the district trying to get my grandson placed. He's a 5-year-old kindergarten student who's severely autistic. He was registered back in August online with all supporting documentation, including his diagnosis from the neurodevelopmental pediatrician at CHOP. That's a premier pediatric facility, nationally and internationally renowned. He was not placed in special ed initially. He wasn't placed at all for over 30 days. And when he was placed, he was sent to Petway to be placed in a regular education class. And his mother said, "You can't do that. He has elopement issues. He is a risk, a safety risk." And they said, "Well, just take him to the school. Talk to the principal when you get there." So the end of September, when he went that day, the principal took one look. He's obviously very autistic. Brought the school psychologist in. They said, "Oh yeah, there's no way we could possibly put him in regular education. We'll need to put him in the only thing we have available at Petway, which is a multiply disabled program." The principal at that time, Jennifer Frederico, was wholeheartedly responsive and caring and wonderful with my daughter, who was in tears and said, "I'm so worried my son is going to run away because he needs a one-on-one. He needs to be contained." She was wonderful. She reassured her, "We will keep Trevor safe. Nothing's going to happen. He won't elope." She even called later that morning to say, "He's doing fine, Mom. You're okay." Unfortunately, she retired, or she's in the process of doing so. That day, she actually told Tara, my daughter, Trevor's mom, that she was very upset because she had had so many instances where she's been given these students who do not fit in a regular education class because the district does not accept an incoming diagnosis from a reputable institution until they get their chance to do their own evaluations. So Trevor was only there 20 days. For the 20 days he was there, unfortunately, Kim you remember me reaching out to you in the early fall. I did try to reach back out to you again, clue you in on some other correspondence, but I didn't hear back from you. I also reached out to Mr. Llanos and didn't get response there either. We had an initial IEP. We went to the school. It was Bar School. Bar School at that point had fencing that was inoperable, sliding gates. It had broken fencing. It had gaps in the fencing. We told the caseworker that day that that's not acceptable. That's not safe. And I just want to reiterate that the caseworker told Mother that day that the school district would not repair them. She said that they would restrain Trevor. They would put him in a vest and a leash like a dog, or else he would be excluded from recess until he learned not to elope. Well, there are many adults with autism that never learn not to elope, and so we said at that time, that's not acceptable either. Restraint and exclusion is just not an option. We need a safe place. And again, I want to point out, this school is 0.2 of a mile from the busiest commercial thoroughfare in Vineland, and it contains multiple grade levels of autism classrooms. Trevor cannot be the first or the last student that will have elopement issues.
Ma'am, I'm going to have
So-
to ask you to wrap up your
All right.
time.
Long story short, after 3 times telling them it wasn't enough, we did get legal counsel, and again, multiple civil rights abuses. On the 14th of November, Trevor had been out for several weeks. He came back. Mrs. Mongaluzzo spoke with my daughter. She wasn't allowed to pick her son up until she was reporting to the vice principal's office, and at that point, she was threatened with declassifying her child. She said things, do you think he'd be safe if we
Ma'am,
put
I'm
him
going
in
to have
a...
to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, I'm wrapping up. So in long, it was a threat to a parent of placing her disabled child in harm's way, and that's not acceptable. Who threatens a parent about their child's safety? It's unethical, immoral, and just plain mean. And is this the culture you want? This is the person who did this. She is totally illegal. She doesn't have the right to declassify a student. She did that as a means of coercion. It was an idle threat. If they had allowed that child to run free in the school, it would have been mayhem. So we knew that was never going to happen. We went home. We had our lawyer contact the district the next day. Trevor is supposed to be going to school next week. The fencing has now been repaired after we hired a lawyer to ensure that he would be safe in that location. I hope to be able to come back and report to you positive things because he's waited 6 months to be placed in an appropriate program where he will be kept safe by the facilities. And anytime a principal thinks it's okay to tell a parent that we're going to put your child in harm's way because you haven't agreed to an IEP after 3 times, that she told them over and over it wasn't safe because of the facilities not being operational and safe. I'm sure you'll go ahead and probably approve this appointment anyway, but you don't have to. There are other options out there. You could keep her as an interim for a while until you look into this situation. I'm not a crackpot. I actually have many years. I'm a teacher and a school nurse.
Ms. Spinelli, if I may, I just wanted to remind the board, the public, this is the portion of the meeting where public comment on agenda items. So the comment must be focused on what's on the agenda. There's a second portion of the public comment at the end of the meeting when people can address the board on any matter. I also wanted to remind the board and the public that board members do not respond to public comment. All public comments are referred to the superintendent, who in turn will determine where they go from there. But board members are not to respond by policy, by bylaw. This is what you are doing, just receiving the public comment and passing it on to administration. And emails also, yes.
News, Vasquez. Topic is policy.
It's not agenda, so I wasn't.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to motions and resolutions. Consent agenda, and at this point, I will pass it on to Mr. Yano.
Thank you. Requesting discussion and approval regarding personal item 1.1. 1.1 is retirements, resignations, terminations, leave of absence, employment transfers, substitutes, extracurricular activities.
Do I have any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti? Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Congratulations, Ms. Mangaluso. I know the Petway team is here. You are welcome to address the board. What a beautiful show of support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yano, thank you. Members of the interview committee who selected me and recommended me to the board, thank you. To my Board of Education members, thank you. I truly am humbled. I'm honored. I'm excited. I've been preparing for this. I also have to thank my family. I'm going to try to get through with not crying. And this staff is amazing. I am incredibly lucky and blessed to be starting where I am. We have only good things ahead of us, and I truly believe as a principal, my job is to create opportunities for all students, and that is what we will continue to do at Petway. With this staff behind us, I know we will work well together, and we will do good things for the kids in Vineland, and we will treat them all like they are our own, as we do now, and we will moving forward. So I'm very proud principal at this moment. Thank you so much once again, and I look forward to all the great things that are to come. Thank you.
I think we should hear one more round of applause for Ms. Mangaluso and the Petway team. We are super excited for the work that you're about to do, and it's really exciting to see, of course, your daughter here with you and the team. Our Board of Ed is in support. We're going to make magic happen, continue the great work. We know you got this, Ms. Mangaluso. Requesting discussion and approval regarding procedure and operations items 2.1 through 2.5. 2.1, approval of the following: trips, spring sports, middle school track, district travel. 2.2, approval of the following bylaws for discussion: bylaw 0152, 0161, and 0162. 2.3, approval of the first reading of the following policies for discussion: policy 1648, .11, 1648.13, 2423, 2425, 5200, 8140, 8330. 2.4, approval of the adoption of a resolution authorizing a shared service agreement and memorandum of understanding with the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office and various Cumberland County agencies and school district for implementation of the Youth Trauma Intervention Protocol Initiative. And 2.5, approval regarding the September 2022 through January 2023 HIB report to the Board of Education presented in accordance with NJSA 18A, and we have the report attached to the agenda.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a roll call? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti? Ms. Spinelli? Motion carries.
Requesting discussion regarding finance items 4.1 through 4.10. 4.1, approval of budgetary transfers for general, school-based, and ECPA for December 2022. 4.2, approval of the board secretary and treasurer reports for December of 2022. 4.3, approval of the placement of special education students as noted on file. 4.4, approval of the vendor, whose name is on file with the board secretary, selected for the project graduation trip scheduled for Thursday, June 15, 2023. 4.5, approval of the submission of the following grant application, the FY 2023 Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, application to the New Jersey Department of Ed. 4.6, approval of the submission and acceptance of the Dick's Sporting Goods Grant for Veterans Memorial Middle School in the amount of $5,000. Approval of the funding of the following amended grant, which is on file with the board secretary. New Jersey Department of Children and Families Family Friendly Center Grant for Saboteur Elementary School. 4.8, approval of professional development for school for district nurses workshop March 10th, 2023. 4.9, approval of the DCPMP placement tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Education, Sendon District, and Egg Harbor Township Board of Education of Atlantic County, receiving for one student. 4.10, approval of an agreement with Lifting Up LLC for services in connection with the Youth Trauma Intervention Protocol Initiative, which is grant funded.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Cotts-Spotty?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Requesting discussion and approval regarding finance items 4.11 through 4.20. 4.11, approval of the attorney-client fee contract with the France Law Group to join class action litigation against Jewel Laboratories at no out-of-pocket cost to the board. 4.12, approval of the 2-year renewal of the following lease of 1350 Southwest Boulevard in a form acceptable by the superintendent and board solicitor November 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2024 to Ascenda Incorporated. 4.13, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between City of Vineland and Weymouth Township Board of Education of Atlantic County as Ascendant District for one student. 4.14, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between the City of Vineland and Buna Regional School District of Atlantic as Ascendant District for one student. 4.15, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between the City of Vineland and Egg Harbor Township Board of Education, Atlantic County as Ascendant District for one student. 4.16, approval of McKinney-Vento tuition contract, City of Vineland as receiving, Glassboro Board of Education as Ascendant District for one student. 4.17, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between the City of Vineland and Pleasantville Board of Education for one student. 4.18, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between the City of Vineland receiving and Pleasantville Board of Education of Atlantic County for another student. 4.19, approval of the McKinney-Vento tuition contract between the City of Vineland and Pleasantville for one student. And 4.20, approval of the 2022-2023 Joint Transportation Agreement between Camden County Educational Services Commission and the City of Vineland Board of Education in the amount of $7,078.68.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes to all, abstain on 4.12.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Cotts-Spotty?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Regular agenda, proposed items for review or discussion or adoption by board members, none. Approval of the bills occurred in December 2022. Do I have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Gottesbody?
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Emergent items with prior approval, none. Opportunity for the public to address the board. Please limit yourself to 3 minutes. We do have our timer at the end, and state your name at the podium.
Luz Vasquez. Topic is policy.
Luz Vasquez, parent. In December, after the board meeting, I usually attend these meetings. I was at a community meeting and it was brought to my attention that there are 2 students identifying as animals here in the Vineland district, specifically a fox and a cat. So I was not aware of that. So I am here to request, if this in fact is happening, then I would like to see a policy on animals in the school. And if we're all going to allow animals in the school, will there be training on how to care for these animals? In this policy, will there be a list of animals allowed in the school? Since we're allowing animals in the school, does that mean that children will be allowed to bring additional pets as well if animals are allowed in the school? Or will we be partnering with the SPCA? Who will be paying for kitty litter? Are there vendors that taxpayers are on the hook for to care for these animals? I would really be concerned for how we are caring for these animals. Do we have space for the animals? And are we properly trained for the animals? So the policy is really important, and I would like to see the policy on animals in the school. My concern is for the safety of others, and if we're going to have animals in the school, I want to make sure that everybody is safe and properly cared for. So I will be waiting to see if there is a policy, and if there isn't, I think that this board needs to have a robust conversation with the superintendent and the administration on creating one that will deal with animals in the school. If we in fact have animals in the school, which has been confirmed by a maintenance man, a few teachers, and lots of parents, that I don't think would be lying at a community meeting because there's just nothing in it for them. So I have to give them the benefit of the doubt, and if there is some truth to this, we just want to make sure that everyone is safe and that we have policies covering the animals in the school. Thank you.
That's it. Anybody else?
Would anybody else like to address the board?
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, members of the board at Vineland Education. My name is Carlos Rivera. I am the assistant cheerleading coach at Vineland High School. I'll start by saying I enjoy my position. I enjoy being a coach to a program full of talented young individuals. This is the reason for me speaking in front of you today. To bring to your attention my experience of another position I held at Vineland High School. I was a long-term substitute bilingual science teacher in the South Building. I started my position on November 5th, 2022. Upon settling into the classroom, I was made aware that there was no assignments given since October 28th, 2022. I was given access to different science classes that were near to me since I was not given any curriculum nor guidance to put the students back on the academic track. I was in charge of 3 different science classes with grade levels from 9 to 12. I brought to the attention of the science supervisor the fact that there was not as much bilingual text, homework, and assignments for most of my classes. When given the reply, I was directed to the bilingual text on CK-12, middle school text, and was told to pick a spot so they could learn anything. Now, this draws concern for me, especially since this is a growing population in our county, a population that's 2/3 of our school, a population that should have the same access to the same education like every other student. As me being the 3rd teacher to work in that same exact classroom, I found it to be inconsistent and a disservice to students for people in head departments to not give time and energy to a bilingual class in their subject as they do with others. The main reason why I'm speaking today is because our growing population deserves a good education, leaders that care and want to see them thrive, and people that will acknowledge and validate who they are as students and who they are becoming. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. All right. Old business this evening? None. Any new business this evening? Any new business? Seeing none. Moving on to board member remarks. We will start with Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the students from the Palo Alto School for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for all the individuals that presented different presentations today. It was very informative. Points out some of the great things that we're doing in the district. To all the individuals that came and spoke and gave comments, thank you. We always appreciate your comments. We appreciate your input because we don't see everything. So if you point things out to us that we can perhaps look into it, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but at least we look into it, and we thank you for that. I'd like to just to thank the school district in general. I mean, we're doing some great things. We're doing some great things in Vineland. We're hiring great people to take leadership positions and be principals and vice principals, and these things are beneficial to our students, beneficial to our community as a whole. I couldn't be more prouder to serve on this board, and I look forward to even greater things in the future. As always, I always tell parents, be involved. Be involved. You are part of this. You are part of the equation. You have the school district, you have the administration, you have the teachers, but you are a big part of it. So I encourage parents to always be involved. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. They're your children. They're your children. So never forget that. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Mr. Sobrana.
Echoing what Mr. Rivera said, thank you to our flag saluters, all the presenters. It's great to see that middle school field hockey team do so well. It does portend to for the future. Also, another thank you to Ms. Painter and her team for that great presentation on preschool. And one other thing, which is that next week there's going to be a relatively important football game. And one of the players is going to be someone very near and dear to our hearts, Isaiah Pacheco, who's just been some kind of phenomenal for the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because we'll be rooting for him, of course, and also for the, quote, home team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Curious whether we have any special plans along those lines, because I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting and challenging Monday after the Super Bowl. Other than that, I hope we go back to the warm winter, because I've had enough of winter already. Thank you.
Mr. Silva.
Yes, I'd like to echo my fellow board members. Thank you to all the presenters, the flag saluters, Ms. Cronk and Ms. O'Kane, for an undefeated season and the rest of the team. Also to Mr. Musserell and his team for a clean audit. Mr. Musserell, good job, and your team. And lastly, Ms. Mangeluzzo, looking forward to the great thing that you're going to continue to do in that school. So, thank you.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Good evening. Just want to congratulate Mrs. Mangaluzzo. I know you're going to continue to be an integral part of that school, and I know that the parents and staff and students are thrilled to have you. Thank you and have a good evening.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, thank you to the flag saluters from the Palo Alto. Congratulations to the girls field hockey team on their undefeated season. When administration first brought this to the board, obviously what you've heard tonight, the big question was, where's the money going to come from? Because transportation, coaches, equipment, all of that takes into account, but I'm glad to see the success of our decision tonight. Lastly, I want to congratulate Ms. Jackie Mangaluzzo. When Sophia came down to run and hug you, I knew that was confirmation, the right decision that we made tonight. Petway's morale is one of the best that I've seen across our district, and the staff is professional and always there to help our students. Just because you've worked somewhere for so long doesn't mean that it has been time well spent. So I want to thank Mr. Yano and the members of the interview process for creating a culture where Ms. Mangaluzzo had to work for this promotion. as hard as any other candidate. Good luck to our alumni, Isaiah Pacheco, and the Chiefs, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Ms. Acosta.
Thank you. I would like to, again, echo my fellow board members' remarks with respect to our flag saluters. Congratulations to the amazing, amazing middle school field hockey team players. I would encourage parents to encourage your children to participate in sports that are offered, particularly in the middle school. I think it really does go a long way in building not only the camaraderie that they share, sense of accomplishment, but I think that a lot of the skills that they're learning will transfer academically to make better students as well. Who knows, maybe eventually we'll start seeing some other teams in the middle school. But I think it's a really, really wonderful program. I'd also like to congratulate and to thank. There are approximately 5 teachers and a guidance counselor who have over 25 years of service each, who will be retiring in July. But I know some of them, and I would really, really like to thank them for their many, many, many years of service and the contributions they've made to our students. And lastly, I appreciate and thank all of the members of the public that came out not only to support our students, but obviously Petway Patriots were here supporting Mrs. Mangaluzzo. Congratulations. I am a proud parent that had 2 Petway students, and I can't say enough about the school, so congratulations.
Ms. Fabry.
I want to thank our preschool administrators for coming out for a very informative presentation, especially since we had so many questions last time during the meeting. I appreciate Mr. Yano for setting that up. Big congratulations to Ms. Mangaluzzo. I too am a parent of a Petway Patriot, and I'm very excited to see what you're going to do there. So, thank you.
Ms. Kadasbati.
I'd like to echo all my fellow board members' comments. I'd like to thank our Safety Patrol family from DePolito. I would like to congratulate our girls' middle school field hockey team for an undefeated season. That's so great that we can do that for our middle schoolers. Congratulations, Mr. Mustarell and your team for the audit report. You guys worked hard. You work hard every day. To our speakers, thank you for coming out and speaking. It's, as Mr. Rivera said, it's not always good, it's not always bad, but we need to hear what's going on because we don't always hear what's out there. Congratulations to Judah Waters for winning Mr. Vineland, and congratulations to all the contestants that put themselves out there, and to those who actually worked on it and made this Mr. Vineland a phenomenal event. Mr. Rivera and I had the privilege of judging, and it was awesome. The contestants were great. It was really hard to decide who was the actual winner, so thank you. Congratulations to all of our inductees to the National Honor Society. There are so many good things going on throughout all the schools that we might miss a few, so whatever's going on out there, congratulations. See, the class of 2023 is having a fundraiser tomorrow night at Texas Roadhouse. So if you guys go out and support our seniors, it'll be a great help. Thank you to the preschoolers administration out there. I deal with you guys. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you for such a great presentation. Good luck to Pop. I'm rooting for the Chiefs this year. So, you know, it's important that I think some of our students see what's going on, and that he worked very hard to where he's at, and he's continuing to work hard. So it inspires me, and I'm sure it inspires other students. Keep working hard, your dreams can come true. Mrs. Mangaluso, congratulations, what can I say? Well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yano.
Thank you. A few highlights. We held a meeting of the Bilingual Parent Advisory Group in January, where parents learned about access testing and how to help their children get success and achieve success to a high level in English. Judah Walters is our Mr. Vineland 2023. Congratulations, Judah. We had a great crowd come out at the event, and all of the seniors who participated did an amazing job. I heard it was very difficult to come out with a winner. Congratulations to junior Jillian Schultz for winning the 2023 Poetry Out Loud competition at VHS. She will now go on to the Region 2 competition later this month. The district held its third Portrait of a Graduate meeting last week, where the design team focused on the selected competency areas for our students and discussed the portrait design. We have one more meeting coming up next month. It's going to be very exciting when we get to release and reveal our competencies that were selected and also our design from the team. 31 students inducted into the National Honor Society last week, the highest honor bestowed on a high school scholar. Congratulations to all of our inductees. And of course, this weekend, not this weekend, no, Super Bowl weekend, we are very excited to see Isaiah Pacheco, playing and being so successful, and also all the Eagles fans that are out there. So I know there's a lot of conflicted fans. You want to root for Pacheco, or do you want to, or over here, we see some evidence of that as well. I know the elephant in the room is, what are we going to do on Super Bowl Monday? We know that some school districts are considering different ways to address the event and the lack of participation in going to work on Monday. So we haven't made a decision yet. We're still considering all of our options. We're looking at what our regional partners are doing in Millville, Bridgeton, neighboring regions, because transportation is connected to all of our constituent districts, and any decision that's made will be announced shortly so that parents can make arrangements if there is a change in our schedule. But I'm not too sure about that yet, but I know our board is definitely pushing us in one direction, so we'll see. We are often dealing with very challenging situations that deal with some of our most at-risk students who need a lot of love and support. I can assure this Board of Education that our administration team, from the building to central leadership, our special ed director, our assistant superintendents, we get hands-on with the work. And this even involves our facilities team and the business administrator when it comes to time to retrofit buildings and install equipment to help safeguard our students. So I can assure you that we are always plugged in, connected, and working with our families whenever these challenging situations come up. Again, Ms. Mangaluso, congratulations. Looking forward to continuing the great work with you. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight, all of our presenters. Congratulations to Ms. Mangaluso, our new Petway principal. I look forward to seeing how you make that building yours and all the positive changes that you will make. As Mr. Yano said, we will hear what the plan is for Monday after Super Bowl, so just be patient while administration looks at all options. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Any opposed?